Kagami TSURUGI, one of the most hated characters in Miraculous for no reason. Well, I mean, she's definitely a lot more liked now, but I still see a lot of people hating, mainly because of adrinette, which, like, adrinette's literally dating and Kagami's dating Felix, so I don't know why we're still hung up on this, honestly. Anyway, back to my point. People still hate her, and once upon a time, y'all really hated her. So I thought it was finally time for me to make a video dedicated to her. Not to mention, I've wanted to start a series on my channel where I do deep dives and just talk about my overall opinions on different characters for a really long time. So I thought, why not just do it and start with one of my favorite, and I mean favorite, of all time characters, Kagami TSURUGI.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Oh, why am I stammering?
As you guys definitely did not already know, she is one of my favorite characters in the show, and for a plethora of reasons. 1, she's gorgeous. 2, she really does have a good heart. 3, girlie has an attitude, let me tell you. And number 4, she's a very tell it how it is without thinking kind of person.
And I wasn't invited?
Of course not. You're not a precious stone. You're just a stone.
Like, if you do something wrong, you best believe she will tell you. And honestly, I'm kind of the opposite of that, so I actually really admire that about her. But the thing I love most about her is her development. I think she and Felix have had the most character development out of everyone, which is also why I think Felix is also one of my favorites. Although, Felix's personality did a 180, and we know his whole backstory, so it's super easy to see his development. Kagami's is a lot more subtle, which, as a deep dive look into everything way too much kind of person, I love that. She went from being someone who was very cold, didn't show emotions, didn't even know how to make friends, to someone who just loves deeply, someone who wants to help others. She's so much more comfortable with herself and others, and now she has so many friends and even a boyfriend who loves her so much, which is like literally all she's ever wanted. So, and most importantly, she's getting a lot better at feeling and expressing emotions. It's just so nice to see. And like, she's done so much for people, and I think a lot of it goes unnoticed. Like, take representation for example. She is literally the sole reason Gabriel was able to be defeated in the finale. Like, 1, she knew her secret identity and then was able to relay that back to someone who knew who Monarch was, aka Felix. Not to mention, she was the only person that has ever made Felix trust people, and she turned him into a good guy, so the power this girl holds. Anyway. And also, she threw Felix back into reality, literally, and helped him realize how terrible his plans were, which led to them making the good plan that would lead Marinette to Monarch. And you know what? I never see Kagami get praised for that. Like, what are we doing? Like, give that girlie an award or something, dang. Like, ugh, she's just such a good character. I could go on for hours, but I won't, because me listing all of the things that I like about her isn't the whole purpose of this video, I promise. I actually mainly wanted to talk about the whole she stole Adrian from Marinette complex. As I mentioned, that's kind of the whole reason why people hate her, which quite frankly, I was never really on the Kagami hate train, but there was a point in time where she wasn't really one of my favorite characters, mainly because I wanted Adrinette together, and like, I started watching Miraculous before season 4 came out, so Lucanette and Kagami were like really big at the time, so I was like, ugh, are you kidding me, really? I don't want this, give me Adrinette. Not to mention, she was pretty rude to Marinette, but honestly, it didn't take me too long before I started to understand Kagami more and see where she's coming from, and honestly, from that standpoint, I didn't really hate her that much anymore. And I really think that's a lot of people's problems. They just don't understand her and why she would have done what she did. So let's dive into that. 1 word, threatened. That's why I think Kagami acted the way she did. She was threatened by Marinette, and I honestly think that's really obvious by how possessive over Adrian she was. In all honesty, I really don't think she meant it in a rude way. If anything, I think she was just trying to convince herself that she was the only one Adrian wanted. I mean, if we take it back to the very beginning, Kagami's known that Adrian's been in love with Marinette. Like, girlie literally spent 2 seconds with him and she already knew. But on the other hand, Adrian called Marinette just a friend, meaning that he possibly wasn't interested in her, also meaning he was available. And of course, from that moment, she started liking him. Which all of this happened before Kagami ever knew Marinette liked him, by the way. It's not like she was trying to steal Adrian from Marinette. But yeah, from the get-go, she kind of had this idea in her head that she would end up with Adrian. Then you have Marinette that comes along, and she clearly likes Adrian, which is threatening to Kagami because, like I said, she knows Adrian likes Marinette. So like, of course she didn't like Marinette, because, I mean, at the end of the day, she could swoop in and take her man at any point. Well, from her perspective at least. So of course she starts acting really coldly towards her and really possessive over Adrian. Not to mention, she's not really best at social situations or interactions, so it makes sense that she'd kind of act this way. And as we all know, liking someone can make us think crazy things and do crazy things. A lot of the time when we like somebody, we take everything they do as a sign that they're in love with us, because I mean, like, why would we not want them to be in love with us? And kind of going back, Adrian was always really friendly with her. Like, he liked her, but it was just in a friend way. And I think Kagami kind of took all of those things as him liking her romantically. So because of that misinterpretation, in her eyes, Adrian likes Marinette and Kagami, so she has to swoop in real fast to get him with her before he chooses Marinette. And honestly, I think Kagami knew from the very beginning that Adrienne was going to end up together, but she didn't want to accept it just because she liked him, which is probably another reason why she was kind of mean to Marinette. It's like, if I drive her far enough away, maybe he'll forget about her and I'll have him all to myself. But also, I'm not going to blame Kagami totally on this part because a lot of it also has to do with Adrian. He was obviously in love with Ladybug, but his feelings were not reciprocated. Kagami, on the other hand, did like him, and he liked Kagami, so clearly she was the better option. However, the only problem with that is that he didn't like Kagami, not in that way. But since she liked him and he wanted someone who wanted him, he took his platonic feelings as romantic feelings, which is actually really funny when you think about it, because he basically did the opposite thing with Marinette. Bro is all kinds of messed up. Anyway, I don't know if you guys have ever had anything like this happen to you, but for me, at least, in the past, there was this guy that liked me, and I didn't even like him like that, but knowing that he liked me kind of made me think that I also liked him. It wasn't until I actually kind of started talking to him that I was like, oh, yeah, no, I don't like you like that. And I think that's kind of how it was with Adrian. He wanted to like somebody who liked him, and Kagami liked him, so he's like, oh, guess now I like her. That was a really confusing sentence. But yeah, like I said, it's not like he didn't like her at all. He just liked her as a friend, but mistook those feelings as romantic feelings, which honestly only made things worse because it made her try even harder for their relationship. And like, the more she tried for Adrigami, the more she started to be mean to Marinette and kind of push her away. Because I mean, look at the way she treated her after she felt like she had Adrian under her grasp. She was much nicer. And it wasn't until things ended between her and Adrian that she really started to befriend Marinette. So clearly this was all just her being scared that Marinette would take what she wanted. Also, I feel like now's a good time to mention that Marinette also didn't really like Kagami for a long time. So it's not even like Kagami was a bully or anything. The hate was very much reciprocated. Anyway, I feel like who Kagami is now is kind of the person she's always been, which is why so many people like her now. Like, she's always been a really likable person, but there were just a lot of things going on that overshadowed who she really was. And it's understandable. Love can make you a completely different person. I don't blame her. And also, not to mention, she was alone for most of her life. Like, she never really had friends. So, not really surprised she isn't really good at dealing with all that stuff. Communication was definitely not her strong suit, but she's definitely getting better at it now. But yeah, that's all I have to talk your ear off about. If you guys have any other characters you'd like me to talk about, feel free to let me know. Because don't worry, I have some opinions on characters, just saying.
I despise her. What do you think you're doing sitting next to my Adrikins? That's my seat.
Don't ever touch me again. Don't ever speak to me again. Don't ever look at me again.